Hey you guys, so I'm back and today we are going to finish reading The Westing Game. I'm so excited to share the ending of this book with you guys and I can't wait to hear what you think about it. Alright, Chapter 27, A Happy Fourth. His aviator's helmet again flapping over his ears, Otis Amber danced up to his soup kitchen companion, flung his arms around the taut body, and squeezed her tightly. Hey, Crow, old pal, old pal, old pal. They said I was innocent, Otis. They said I was innocent, she replied vaguely. Angela, too, wanted to hug her in welcome, but closeness was not possible for either of them. Instead, Angela offered a crooked smile. Crow nodded and lowered her eyes, only to raise them to Madame Who, clutching a Mickey Mouse clock. Things very good, Madame Who said, extending her free hand and shaking Crow's hand up and down. It was all a regrettable mistake, Ed Plum explained to the judge. Can you imagine? That sheriff wanted to arrest me, not Crow. Me, Edgar Jennings Plum. He wanted to arrest the attorney. Fortunately, the coroner determined that Mr. McSuthers died of a heart attack, as did Samuel W. Westing. Then Turtle's right, Theo said. There was no murder. The coroner was part of the plot. Ed Plum had no idea what Theo was talking about. Masking his ignorance with arrogance, he continued, I had my suspicions about this entire affair from the start. I came here for one reason only, to announce my resignation from all matters regarding the Westing estate with sincere apologies to all concerned. Wasn't there a last document? Judge Ford asked, knowing that Sam Westing had to make his last move. Yes, but as I no longer take a legal interest, please turn it over to the court. Baffled by the word court, the lawyer set the envelope on the desk and found his way out of Sunset Towers. Without once clearing her throat, Judge Ford proceeded to read the final page of the will of Samuel W. Westing. 17th. Goodbye, my heirs. Thanks for the fun and games. I can rest in peace knowing I was loved as your jolly doorman. 18th. I, Samuel W. Westing, otherwise known as Sandy McSuthers, and others, do hereby give and bequeath all the property and possessions in my name as follows. To all of you, in equal shares, the deed to Sunset Towers, and to my former wife, Bertha Erica Crow, the $10,000 check forfeited by Table 1, and two $10,000 checks endorsed by J.J. Ford and Alexander McSuthers. 19th. The sun has set on your Uncle Sam. Happy birthday, Crow. And to all of my heirs, a very happy 4th of July. Judge Ford set the document down. That's it. That's it. What about the $200 million, the heir wanted to know. We lost the game, the judge explained, staring at Turtle, her face a mask of sad, childlike innocence as she nestled once again in Flora Baumbach's arms. I think. Turtle rose and walked to the side window, seeking the Westing house, which stood invisible in the moon-clouded night. Hurry up, Uncle Sam, I can't keep up this act much longer. The candle must have burned through the last stripe by now. Behind her, the discontented heirs grumbled. He made fools of us all. He played us like puppets. He was a good man. He was a vengeful man, a hateful man. Windclapper? He tricked us, the cheat. A madman, stark raving mad. Oh my, just listen to you, Flora Baumbach said. You each have $10,000 more than you started with, and an apartment building to boot. The man is dead, so why not think the best? Boom, boom, boom. Happy 4th of July, Turtle shouted as the first rockets lit up the Westing house, lit up the sky. Boom, 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 boom. The heirs gathered around Turtle at the window. Boom! Stars of all colors bursting into the night, silver pinwheels spinning, golden lances up, up, boom! Crimson flashes flashing, blasting, scarlet showers, boom! Emerald rain, boom, boom! Orange flames, red flames leaping from the windows, sparking the turrets, firing the trees. Boom! Cried Madame Who, clapping her hands with delight. The great winter fireworks extravaganza, as it came to be called, lasted only 15 minutes. 20 minutes later, the Westing house had burned to the ground. Happy birthday, Crow, Otis Amber said, reaching for her hand. The orange glow of the morning sun had just begun its climb up the glass front of Sunset Towers when Turtle set out to collect the prize. She pedaled north past the cliff, still smoldering with the charred remains of the Westing house. Reaching the crossroads, she turned into a narrow lane whose twisting curves mimic the shoreline. The heir who wins the windfall will be the one who finds the 4th. It was so simple once you knew what you were looking for. Sam Westing, Barney Northrup, Sandy McSuthers. west, north, south. Now she was on her way to meet the fourth identity of Windy Windclapple. She could have probably figured out the address too instead of looking it up in the Westingtown phone book. There it was, number 4, Sunrise Lane. A long driveway, its privacy guarded by tall spruce, led to the modern mansion of the newly elected chairman of the board of Westing Paper Products Corporation. Turtle climbed the stairs, rang the bell, and waited. The door opened. Turtle felt her first grip of panic as she confronted the crippled doctor. Could she have been wrong? "I'd like to see Mr. Eastman, please," she said nervously. "Tell him Turtle Wexler is here." "Mr. Eastman is expecting you," Dr. Sykes said. "Go straight down the hall." The hall had an inlaid marble floor, no oriental rugs. Reaching its end, she entered a paneled library, this one filled with books. There he was, sitting at the desk. Julian R. Eastman rose. He looked stern and very proper. He wore a gray business suit with a vest, a striped tie. His shoes were shined. He limped as he walked toward her. Not the crooked limp of Dr. Sykes, just a small limp, a painful limp. Again, Turtle was gripped by panic. He seemed so different, so important. She shouldn't have kicked him, the Barney Northrop him. He was coming closer. His watery blue eyes stared at her over his rimless half glasses. Hard eyes. His teeth were white, not quite even. No one would ever guess they were false. He was smiling. He wasn't angry with her. He was smiling. "Hi, Sandy," Turtle said. "I won." Chapter 28. And then. Turtle never told. She went to the library every Saturday afternoon, she explained, which was partly true. "Make your move, Turtle. You don't want to be late for the wedding." The ceremony was held in Shin Hu's restaurant. Grace Wexler recovered from a world record hangover, draped a white cloth over the liquor bottles, and set a spray of roses on the bar. No drinks would be served today. Radiant in her wedding gown of white heirloom lace, the bride walked down the aisle, past the tables of well-wishers on the arm of Jake Wexler. Mr. Hu, the best man, beamed with pride at her light footsteps as he supported the knee-knocking, nervous groom. A fine red line of a scar marked Angela's cheek, but she looked content and lovely as ever in her pale blue bridesmaid's gown. The other bridesmaid wore pink and yellow with matching crutches. The guests cried during the wedding and laughed during the reception. Flora Baumbach smiled and cried at the same time. "You did a good job altering the wedding dress, Baba," Turtle said, which made the dressmaker cry even harder. "A toast to the bride and groom," Jake announced, raising his glass of ginger ale. "To Crow and Otis Amber." The heirs of Uncle Sam Westing clinked glasses with the members of the Good Salvation Soup Kitchen, sobered up for this happy occasion. To Crow and Otis Amber. Apartment 4D was bare. For the last time, Judge Ford stared out the side window to the cliff where the Westing house once stood. She would never solve the Westing puzzle. Perhaps it was just as well. Her debt would finally be repaid, with interest. The money she received from the sale of her share of Sunset Towers would pay for the education of another youngster, just as Sam Westing had paid for hers. "Hi, Judge Ford. I came to say goodbye," Chris said, wheeling himself through the door. "Oh, hello, Chris. That was nice of you. But why aren't you studying? Where's your tutor?" She looked at the binoculars hanging from his neck. "You haven't been bird watching again, have you? There will be plenty of time for birds later. First, you must catch up on your studies if you want to get into a good school." Good heavens, she was beginning to sound like Mr. Hu. "Will you come to see me?" Chris asked. "It gets sort of lonely with Theo away at college." The judge gave him one of her rare smiles. He was a bright youngster. "Real smart," Sandy had said. He had a good future. Sandy had said that too. He needed her influence and the extra money, but she might smother him with her demands. "I'll see you when I can, and I'll write to you, Chris, I promise." Whose Little Foot Ease, patent pending, was selling well in drugstores and shoe repair shops. "Once we capture the Milwaukee market, I'll take you to China," James Hu promised his business partner. "Okay," Madame Hu replied, toting up accounts on her abacus. No hurry. She had many friends in Sunset Towers now, and no more cooking, no more tight dresses slit up her thigh. Her husband had bought her a nice pantsuit to wear when they called on customers, and, for her birthday, Doug had given her one of his medals to wear around her neck. The secretary to the president of Schultz Sausages was back on the job. Her ankle mended, Seidel Pulaski had discarded her crutches. She had all the attention she could handle without them. After all, she was an heiress now. It wasn't polite to ask how much, but everyone knew Sam Westing had millions. Of course she could retire to Florida, she said, but what would poor Mr. Schultz do without her? And then, one unforgettable Friday, Mr. Schultz himself took her to lunch. Jake Wexler had given up his private practice, both private practices, now that he had been appointed consultant to the governor's inquiry panel for a state lottery, thanks to the recommendation by Judge Ford. Grace was proud of him, and his daughters were doing well. In fact, everything was fine. Just fine. Who's on First was a great success. Grace Wexler, the new owner, offered free meals to the sports figures who came to town, and everyone wanted to eat where the athletes ate. The restaurant's one windowless wall was covered with autographed photographs of Brewers, Packers, and Bucks. Grace straightened to the framed picture of a smiling champion signed to Grace W. Wexler, who serves the #1 food in town, Doug Who. She certainly was a lucky woman, a respected restaurateur, wife of a state official, and mother of the cleverest kid who ever lived. Turtle was going to be somebody someday. A narrow scar remained and would always remain on Angela's cheek. It was slightly raised, and she had developed a habit of running her fingers along it as she pored over her books. Enrolled in college again, she lived at home to save money for the years of medical school ahead. She had returned the engagement ring to Denton Deere. She had not seen him since Crow's wedding. Ed Plum had stopped calling after 10 refusals. Angela had neither the time nor the desire for a social life, what with studying, her weekly shopping date with Seidel, and Sundays spent helping Crow and Otis in the soup kitchen. Study, 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 Turtle said. Angela saw little of her sister, who was either at school, in Flora Baumbach's apartment, or at the library. Hi, Turtle. How come you're so happy today? The stock market jumped 25 points. The newlyweds, Crow and Otis Amber, moved into the apartment above the Good Salvation soup kitchen. The storefront mission had been renovated and expanded with the money from the inheritance. Grace Wexler had supervised the decorations. Copper pots hung from the ceiling, the pews were padded with flowered cushions and fitted with hymn book pockets and drop leaf trays. There was meat in the soup and fresh bread every day. Chapter 29. 5 years pass. The former delivery boy danced into the Who's new lakefront home. Let's give a cheer, the Ambers are here! Otis came to celebrate Doug's victory wearing the old zippered jacket and the aviator's helmet. He had even let stubble grow on his chin. The only thing missing was his delivery bike. They had come in the soup kitchen van. Thank you for the generous donation, Mr. Who. God bless you, Crow said. Otis and I distributed the inner souls among our people. It helped their suffering greatly. She looked down, her skin pulled tight against the fragile bones, and she still wore black. Mr. Who, on the other hand, was stouter and less angry. In fact, he was almost happy. Business was booming. Milwaukee loved Who's little footies, and so did Chicago and New York and Los Angeles. But he still had not taken his wife to China. Theo Theodoricus, graduate of journalism school, cub reporter, held up the newspaper, hot off the press. Olympic hero comes home. 4 columns were devoted to the history and achievement of the gold medal winner who had set a new record for the 1,500-meter run. Theo had not actually written the article on the local hero, but he had sharpened the pencils for the reporter who did. Take a bow, Doug, Mr. Who said, beaming. Doug leaped on a table and thrust his index fingers high in the air. I'm #1, he shouted. The Olympic gold medal hung from his neck. Confetti from the parade dotted his hair. The Westing heirs cheered. Hello, Jake. I'm so glad you could come, Sonny, as Madam Who was now called, said, shaking the hand of the chairman of the State Gambling Commission. Boom, Jake Wexler replied. Hello, Angela. Denton Deere had grown a thick mustache. He was a neurologist. He had never married. Hello, Denton. Angela's golden hair was tied in a knot on the nape of her neck. She wore no makeup. She was completing her 3rd year of medical school. It's been a long time. Remember me? Seidel Pulaski wore a red and white polka dot dress and leaned on a red and white polka dot crutch. She had sprained her knee dancing a tango at the office party. How could I ever forget you, Miss Pulaski? Denton said. I'd like you to meet my fiancé, Conrad Schultz, president of Schultz Sausages. How do you do? Judge Ford, I'd like you to meet my friend, Shirley Staver. Chris Theodoricus was in his junior year at college. A medication, recently discovered, kept his limbs steady and his speech well controlled. He sat in a wheelchair, as he always would. Hello, Shirley, the judge said. Chris has written so much about you. I'm sorry I'm such a poor correspondent, Chris. I found myself in a tangle of cases this past month. She was a judge on the United States Circuit Court of Appeals. Chris and I were both chosen to go on a birdwatching tour to Central America this summer, Shirley said. Yes, I know. For old time's sake, Grace Wexler catered the party herself and passed among the guests with a tray of appetizers. She owned a chain of 5 restaurants now. Who's on first? Who's on second? Who's on third? Who's on fourth? And who's on fifth? Who is that attractive young woman talking with Flora Bombach? Theo asked. Why, that's my daughter Turtle. She's really grown up, hasn't she? Second year of college, and she's only 18. Calls herself T.R. Wexler now. T.R. Wexler was radiant. Earlier that day, she had won her first chess game from the master. Chapter 30. The End? Turtle spent the night at the bedside of 85-year-old Julian R. Eastman. T.R. Wexler had a master's degree in business administration, an advanced degree in corporate law, and had served 2 years as legal counsel to the Westing Paper Products Corporation. She had made $1 million in the stock market, lost it all, then made $5 million more. This is it, Turtle. His voice was weak. You can die before my very eyes, Sandy, and I wouldn't believe it. Show some respect. I can still change my will. No, you can't. I'm your lawyer. That's the thanks I get for that expensive education. How's the judge? Judge Ford has just been appointed to the United States Supreme Court. What do you know? Honest Josie Joe on the Supreme Court. She was a smart kid, too, but she never once beat me at chess. Tell me about the others, Turtle. How's poor saintly Crow? Crow and Otis are still slopping soup. Turtle fibbed. Crow and Otis Amber had died 2 years ago, within a week of each other. And that funny woman with the painted crutches, what's her name? Seidel Pulowski Schultz. She and her husband moved to Hawaii. Angela keeps in touch. Angela, how is your pretty sister, the bomber? Turtle never knew he knew. Angela is an orthopedic surgeon. Julian R. Eastman was an old man, but suddenly his mind too was old. For the first time since the Westing game, he was wearing the dentures with the chipped front tooth. He had turned back to his happiest times. Sandy was dying. He was really dying. Turtle held back her tears. Angela and Denton Deere are married. They have a daughter named Alice. Alice. Doesn't Flora Bombach call you Alice? She used to. She calls me TR now, as everyone does. How is the dressmaker, Turtle? Tell me about them. Tell me about all of them. Flora Bombach had given up dressmaking when she moved in with Turtle years ago. Baba is well. Everyone is well. Mr. and Mrs. Theodoricus, remember they had the coffee shop in Sunset Towers? They retired to Florida. Chris and his wife Shirley teach ornithology at the university. They're both professors. Chris discovered a new subspecies on his last trip to South America. It's named after him, the something Christos parrot. The something Christos parrot. I like that. And the track star? Has he won any more medals? 2 Olympic golds in a row. Doug is a sports announcer on television now. And how is Jimmy Who's invention going? I gave him the idea, you know. It looks like a real winner, Sandy. Mr. Who, too, was dead. Sunny Who finally made her trip to China, but returned to carry on the business. And tell me about my niece, Gracie Windclapple. Does she still think she's a decorator? Mom went into the restaurant business, has a chain of 10. 9 are quite successful. I keep telling her to give up on Who's on 10th to cut her losses, but she's stubborn as ever. I guess she hangs on to it because it's in Madison, to be near Dad. He's now the state crime commissioner. He's well qualified for the job. And your husband, how's his writing coming along? He had remembered. Theo's doing fine. The first novel sold about 6 copies, but it got great reviews. He's just about finished with his second book. And when are you two going to have children? Someday. Turtle and Theo had decided against having children because of the possibility of inheriting Chris's disease. If we have a boy, we'll name him Sandy. And if it's a girl, well, I guess we can name her Sandy too. The old man's voice was barely audible now. Did you say Angela had a little girl? Yes, Alice. She's 10 years old. Is she pretty like her mother? I'm afraid not. She looks a lot like you and me. Turtle? Yes, Sandy? Turtle? I'm right here, Sandy. She took his hand. Turtle, tell Crow to pray for me. His hand turned cold. Not smooth, not waxy, just very, very cold. Turtle turned to the window. The sun was rising out of Lake Michigan. It was tomorrow. It was the 4th of July. Julian R. Eastman was dead, and with him died Wendy Windclapple, Samuel W. Westing, Barney Northrup, and Sandy McSuthers. And with him died a little of Turtle. No one, not even Theo, knew her secret. T.R. Wexler was understandably sad over the death of the chairman of the board of the Westing Paper Products Corporation. She had been his legal advisor. She would inherit his stock and serve as a director of the company until the day she, too, would be elected chairman of the board. Veiled in black, she hurried from the funeral services. It was Saturday, and she had an important engagement. Angela brought her daughter Alice to the Wexler Theodoricus mansion to spend Saturday afternoons with her aunt. There she was, waiting for her in the library. Baba had tied red ribbons in the one long pigtail down her back. "Hi there, Alice," T.R. Wexler said. "Ready for a game of chess?" Alright, so that is the end of the Weston game. So I want you to spend the rest of today thinking about the ending and thinking about the whole story. I want to know if you kind of saw that ending coming, if it was a big surprise, if you liked it. And tomorrow's video, I'm going to ask you guys some questions, give you some food for thought, and give you my email address so that you can send me your answers to those questions. I'd love to talk about this book with you. So just spend some time gathering your thoughts, and I will see you tomorrow for a little bit of discussion.